Hello Twin Flames, welcome to my channel and welcome to this Twin Flame update. Today we're doing a special edition reading, as most of them are these days actually, and this is going to be a deep dive into Divine Masculine, so we'll dedicate this reading to Divine Masculine Collective. So what we'll do is I'll take a look at the past, present and future of what we need to know, what is important to know for context. So this reading would be useful for Divine Masculines watching because this is going to give you more clarification and reflection on what's been happening or what is the potential for the future. For cross watchers, for Divine Feminines, of course, it's an opportunity to get a reflection of what's happening with Divine Masculine. You can treat it as a DM within you, or of course get a sneak peek of what Divine Masculines have been up to, what kind of progress they made, what's on their mind, where they're headed. We will begin with Oracle messages, of course, and we will get one for each of the collectives because I know I have a lot of cross watchers for this reading, so we'll take one for the feminines, one for the masculines, and then at the end I'll post some messages from Divine Masculines to their Divine Feminines. What's on their mind? What would they like Divine Feminines to know at this point? All right, let's get started right away. Yesterday was a pretty long reading. If you haven't seen the latest update, it was a really good one. It is a bit lengthy, but I promise you it's worth it because I cover topics that I don't necessarily always cover within the structure of my tarot spread. And of course, another big news is finally all the October readings are on the channel, so make sure that you check out the message for your sign. I recommend checking 3 of them for Sun, Moon, and Rising. And if you have time, just one. Again, personal recommendation is to look for the reading for your rising sign. All right, with all that said, of course, for those who are new, welcome. There's a bunch of information in the description box about my services and content. And yes, I do personal readings, so you can hit me up for that or order one through my website. All right, with all that said, please like the video and let's get started. So for Divine Feminines, we have the Gates of Triumph. It is upside down though, and I don't normally, well, actually, maybe there are a few cards here that are upside down, but I didn't shuffle them that way on purpose, and I usually don't do reversals, but if they come out like this, then I have to acknowledge this. And what it shows to me, we actually had the Gates of Triumph just a couple of days ago. It could have been the 1010 portal reading. I don't remember exactly. But what I would say is, to me, with this card in reverse, it feels like the feminines are in a rush to get to a certain result. Basically, to be able to tell if, to have some kind of external representation of success on the journey. And what I'm going to say here is, in fact, it's not really about that, right? I mean, we kind of know that, but this is a reminder because our brain still likes to have that external validation and some kind of external measurement, right? We are primed that way by our society, like for not just for decades, but for centuries, I would say. We've been primed that way, that our worth or what we've accomplished or how successful, or even sometimes how happy we are. People judge that from the external surrounding, right? So in this case, there is an opportunity for you to look into this. Where are you in a rush to show some kind of external result, right? Maybe for you, it's to finally start dating with your DM, right? Because you've been on and off and kind of on a pause lately, right? So a reminder that this journey is not really about that. It is kind of, but you can't fixate on that result. And I have, by the way, a disclaimer again, I have a cat near the tripod, so if something starts moving, you know why. It's not ghosts, it's not spirits. So it's not the kind of it's not the final goal, right? And yesterday, actually, for Divine Masculines, we saw a message that was that, the wandering path, and it's about the journey, not the destination. And I feel like feminines could use that reminder as well. And the more you are fixated on it, the more resistance you're creating in your field. That's the most important part of this message, that it may seem for a moment like you're really focused on your goal, but because this is a very, you know, like, and that goes for any goal on your light worker path, you know, on the twin flame path, even if it's some kind of a personal goal or a goal for a mission and purpose. The more you're fixated on it, the more resistance you create, and you're gonna attract the karmic lesson connected to it, if that's the case, right? Because that's part of the stuff that we're supposed to release and not overthink about and not get ourselves overwhelmed about. With all that said, masculines, your message is cleansing waters. Purification activates vibrant life force. I mean, when I get this card, for me, it's a permission slip to like take a bath, or if possible, go for a swim in the ocean. I mean, let's face it, if I'm by the ocean, I'm already taking swims every day. But this is like, maybe I'll do, the next one is going to be more conscious, full of ritual swim, something like that, you know. If you don't have a bath or a body of water, do a foot soak, something, right? Maybe you can do some kind of a spa ritual for your body, right? And I mean, yes, it does go for, regardless of whether you're a man or a woman. So just a reminder about first of all, the self-care, and also the importance of water in this process, right? The element of water and how it purifies. I mean, you can even be creative and use rainy day for this purpose. Honestly, it works, I promise you. I actually, in the area where I am located right now, we had, well, I mean, it was supposed to be like a storm. I wouldn't call it a storm, at least not in this area, but we had a couple of rainy days, right? And it's one of those times when the weather changes every 10 minutes, right? And at times it was drizzling, almost like a mist. Other times it was pouring rain. Sometimes it was really windy. At other times it wasn't. But the point is that at some point I realized, I mean, I was a little bit late with my realization, but on Saturday I realized that this is like my last chance to go for a walk before it can get crazy, and we don't know what exactly is going to happen. And that's like the, you know, that was the scary part, that we don't really know what it's going to look like. So I decided to just go outside, and because I'm in the suburbs, it's like a very, you know, countryside neighborhood with lots of nature around. So it was good. It was pleasant. I walked around, and then suddenly that mist came along and it started drizzling, and the weather started changing, and you could almost feel that character. And as I continued to walk, because first of all, I was already committed. I had my goal, and second of all, it was actually quite pleasant. So I'm like, okay, so part of, you know, my prejudice and my worry was my fear of what it would be like, right? Like, I'm not gonna go walking in a pouring rain, but this is actually quite lovely. And so I decided to connect to the element, right? To embrace and to let it embrace me. And yeah, we had a fruitful conversation. Let's just leave it at that. The same goes when I'm going for a swim in the ocean, especially if it's a place that I don't know. And I've been to some wild beaches, or even something that you don't normally call a beach, especially in Hawaii. There's so many of those wild ones. And a lot of locals, they kind of like know the spots, they know how to get in the water and where, and what is this beach like what is going to be happening, like how to stay safe. I obviously, for the most part, didn't know that. So for me, any new spot was that kind of discovery that needs a lot of trust from me, right? And at first, especially because it's the ocean, so the waves are quite often quite high, right? It's not something like it's not a joke. I would go into the water and I would catch myself with that fear, and I would start changing my vibration, my energy, my thoughts around it, right? And embrace it and like really soak in this richness, right? And trust, and you know, go with the guidance of the ocean. And it will always be like the best time ever. Even with the waves, anything, like I would never get into any kind of trouble on the water. It was always the best experience, the most profound one. So, highly recommend. Let me see. It's getting long again, but we're starting. So divine masculines, for your past, what do you need to know, to remember, to think about? You have 6 of Wands. You have the Hierophant and 9 of Cups. For your present, you have Death and Rebirth. Wow. We're not in the Scorpio season just yet. This is Scorpio energy, but we're very close. The Sun. Wow. This is so cool. I love this. I'm so glad I decided to do this reading today. And the King of Pentacles. Lovely. And the future, we have the Chariot. We have 9 of Swords. And we have 5 of Wands. Bottom of the deck, Queen of Swords. All right. So the Queen of Swords is telling me that you have spent some time contemplating on why did certain events occur with you, the circumstances. Just there's a lot going on that seems like it's like out of the thriller, or kind of an adventure book or something, right? And you have that deeper feeling that this means something, like it's very special, this experience that you're having, but your brain keeps overlapping and overriding it with something more mundane and a lot of times more critical, right? So there's that kind of urge to understand, but also the brain that's kind of like shouting in your ear, something that kind of pushes away that ambition, that desire. In your past, you have 6 of Wands, the Hierophant, and 9 of Cups. Yeah, you've had certain successes in your life, and it felt like your past, like you found what's the secret sauce of life, or you found exactly what your thing is, like what is my mission here, or what is my vision of a dream come true life, right? What does the path look like look at the path, right? And usually this is a path like with the spirit, with the divine, but this is also a path of like how you progress in life. How do you see, when they ask those questions, where do you see yourself in like 5 years, 10 years, you had that vision of where do you see yourself even 20 years later, right? Maybe it wasn't very detailed, but you had a pretty good idea and you liked that, right? And you were like, yeah, I can see how I can make that happen. Not just kind of like I understand what I want in life, but I see the path to it, right? Which gave you a lot of joy, a lot of comfort, and aspiration for what is to come. But now things are changing, and more than anything, they're changing within you, right? And you've probably already been through at least part of this death and rebirth transformation, where something fell away from your life. Maybe you suddenly got laid off work, and you seemed like you thought that you'll have this work for as long as you want, like for decades to come. Or you suddenly had an argument and a falling out with your close friend, and again you thought that that person will be in your life forever, right? Some kind of a change. Maybe you feel you've suddenly had to move to a completely new location that you never considered as a place to live, but it had to happen for one or another reason, right? And this is a collective read, so I can't go into too much detail, right? But there was some kind of a switch, a move, and it's kind of like, okay, the old plans don't really make sense anymore, or maybe not right now, or not in the same shape, right? I need to start imagining that from scratch. But that, as you allow this to be like a blank canvas where you can create with that spirit in mind, with that attitude, right? Like it's like anything is possible, and you're creating a new vision for yourself, what this life is like. And not just, I know this is King of Pentacles, right? And we're used to think that Pentacles are about money, but it's not just about money. It's like, what kind of house do I want to buy? Or, what kind of hobbies I want to be doing? Maybe you're living next to a horse farm and you decided that you want to learn how to ride a horse, right? Even get one yourself, right? It's like something, but it's something tangible like that. That now it's like, wow, I can see how this sudden change that got me all overwhelmed and maybe even frustrated, that all my previous plans have gone out of the window. But it opened a lot of new opportunities for me. If you're not there, then you're asked to go into this creative space, right? Maybe actually go out into the sunshine if you have a chance, right? Spend time in nature, do some of that dance, right? Connect and try to reimagine, right? Without expectations, just like blank canvas, anything is possible. And there are all kinds of techniques you can also look up online and to get yourself started if you don't know where to start. I also recommend my podcast episode, and there's a link to the playlist with my podcast, an episode about Ikigai and finding your mission and purpose or your passion in life. That will give you some good ideas as well. And then the future, we have the Chariot, Nine of Swords, and Five of Wands. Look, this of course is not gonna all be solved in one day, and now you have your new plan and everything's sailing smoothly. Even if you've gotten a new realization, like this is what I want to do, this is who I want to become, or this is what kind of life I see for myself now, it doesn't mean that everybody else in your life is going to be on board, including your friends and family, colleagues, anybody else in your neighborhood, right? Maybe as you move to this new space, you are not kid on the block now and they are not just gonna accept you just like that, right? Again, we are all creatures of habit, and there are different theories in terms of diversity and how it is our best chance for survival in general as a humanity, right? And not just among humans actually, but any kind of species, living beings. But at the end of the day, our brain is still looking for similarity on the outside, right? And if you're too much out of this community, society, the vibe that exists, it's gonna create tension, right? It's gonna create some anxiety for you, because again, as human beings, we're looking to belong, to be accepted, right? To find our place, especially if it's some kind of a new community where, we feel like we don't really have much support at the moment, and we need to build that. But the most important part for you is to follow your direction that you choose for yourself, right? And stay as much in your grounded energy, peaceful energy, high vibe energy about anything else as possible. And I know it's hard, it's easier said than done to say, just don't worry about it, what other people think and what they tell you, right? And at times it may not be possible, because you'll have to deal with them and make decisions and take action. But try not to go too dramatic with it. I guess that's what I mean, right? Because you have a bigger fish to fry, you have your vision. And you don't even need to share all of that vision yet, right? While you're still working out the kinks and the tools and the people that you'll need for that. And how do you even want to call it, right? Like, it's fine. Keep it to yourself, right? That's your privacy. You deserve it. If somebody gets too much in your way and becomes too intrusive, cut them out, right? Like, there are different ways to do it. But at the end of the day, it's important to step away from, being likable and wanting people to like you and accept you, and more towards being the authentic version of yourself, not in a violent way, not in an intrusive way, but in like authentic way, like this is who I am. You don't like it, you always have a choice to be somewhere else, spend time with someone else. All right, I hope this was useful to you guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. I love you all. Please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel, and until next time.